Hey, welcome back into the show, everybody. You're listening to Your Defending Fathers here on the Patriot Voice Radio Network, also on the Michigan Talk Network. We appreciate you guys being part of the show today. As always, here on Tuesday, the second segment, we're joined by Dr. Kyle Denholm from Breath of Life Chiropractic Wellness Center in Petoskey. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Randy.
Hey, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, we're gearing up for our sugar detox workshop on Thursday evening, and I'm not actually going to get into that because I want people to actually come to the workshop to learn how sugar is hidden and what it actually does to the body. But I wanted to kind of talk today about why do we eat this way? That's a big part of what we're talking about, and a big part of this is the food pyramid. And I realize they've revamped it a couple times, and now it's my plate, which is just a slightly better piece of crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's like if you're driving a Pinto and you're like, I got me a Chevette. It's like, well, that's not a huge upgrade, man, but okay.
Right.
So it's really interesting that unfortunately a big part of, especially in our country, the food pyramid was really started in the 70s back in Sweden, and it was a much better model, a much better way to eat. And then it kind of came over and got Americanized. And then in 92, the first version was very, very different than the one in Sweden. For instance, the 92 version, dairy gets its own section, whereas in the Swedish version, dairy is just kind of bundled in with everything else. Because we have a big milk lobby in this country. So the milk lobby wanted to make sure that everybody knows that, milk and dairy is an essential part of one's diet, but it's not true. There's many cultures throughout history that got along perfectly well without non-human milk, as do a lot of vegans and others today. My family, for instance, we don't drink cow's milk very rarely. Okay, so we don't have calcium deficiencies and all these other things. So again, there's a lot of things in the food pyramid that unfortunately goes back to basically lobbyists being able to influence government agencies to get a certain outcome from people, because they know that once the food pyramid caught on and our government, who is supposed to protect us, Randy, tells us that this is the best way to eat, then what do you think people are going to do? That's how they're going to start to eat. And you can also tell, okay, if we put these certain things and we tell them to eat more of them, they're going to eat more of them. So
right.
The other interesting thing was when we're looking at this, the original food pyramid said they wanted I'm trying to find – I have a citation here and I'm trying to find it. Sorry.
That's okay.
But when they started, they wanted 5 to 7 servings of they wanted 5 to 9 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables a day, and it was replaced with 2 to 3 when they came back. So it was like the nutritionist, the USDA nutritionist said, okay, this is what we want, and then it came back to them basically after the lobbyists were able to revamp it, and it went from 5 to 9 servings of fresh fruits and vegetables down to 2 to 3. And then that got changed a few years later to 5 to 7 because the anti-cancer campaign from the National Cancer Institute forced the USDA to change some things there. Low-fat dairy is a choice because meat and milk lobbies believe to hurt sales of full-fat products. There's just a lot of things going on here. Basically, ever since the food pyramid was introduced, and the basis of the food pyramid is 6 to 11 servings of grains. Okay, and who do you think put that in there? It's the wheat and corn industries.
Got it. So kind of seeing a trend here, buddy.
Yeah. So the wheat and corn industries were the ones that said, okay, 6 to 11 servings of grains. And if you think about it, that's a lot.
Right.
6 to 11 servings of grain a day. That's your basic. And then you get 3 to 4 servings of vegetables and maybe 1 to 2 servings of fruit. And then, and then it says fats, oils, and sweets is at the very top, which means you don't get any good fat. So you're hungry because you don't eat a lot of fat, so you eat more carbs, right? But they've actually shown that since the food pyramid was introduced, obesity rates have skyrocketed. It's a bell curve going up in the wrong. It's an exponential growth since 1989 when it was first introduced, and then the actual food pyramid, the graphic came out in 92. So, the interesting thing is consuming excessive sugar is bad for you. But people don't realize how much sugar is in carbohydrates. And so that's what we're talking about. And when I'm talking carbohydrates, I'm talking bread and rice and pasta and all these other things, you know. So we've not done a good job as a culture in the United States of educating people on how to properly eat. So that's one of my big goals on Thursday, is to help educate people so they can actually understand how can you actually build a healthy plate of food. And
Sure.
how you teach your kids how to build a healthy plate of food. Because if you're going by these guidelines, it doesn't work. They even said in this, I was reading an article that talking about the low sodium. People are like, oh, sodium is bad for you, especially if you have heart disease, right? There's actually been a lot of studies that debunk that. And it makes sense to me, since the heart is an electrical organ. It's actually got its own electrical system, okay, separate. It's kind of like a separate nervous system almost. But that runs on electricity, and the way we run electricity in our bodies is through salt, like a battery, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Two different types of salts back and forth that creates a current. Well, you need to have it, and they actually found that by increasing salt with a lot of people with heart disease, they actually do better. So we've got a lot of really bad information, and a lot of that type of stuff was fueled by pharmaceutical companies. So I guess what I'm saying is that, at least from my standpoint, I feel like a big part of our healthcare system, and definitely our food system, has been hijacked by lobbyists that are not out with your best interest in mind. And here's the thing. So I'm this crazy chiropractor talking about, hey, we should eat more fat, and we should cut out these heart-healthy grains, so to speak, quote-unquote heart-healthy.
Yeah, right.
But if you look at what I've been able to do in my own life in the last couple of years, and with testimonials like yourself coming pouring through our door,
Yep.
this is the right stuff to do. It's just a matter of helping people to understand why. And the biggest thing there that I'm finding, unfortunately, is I'm just apathy and complacency. Is people just don't seem to care. And it's like, well, if you want to die, that's fine. But, I'm going to keep plugging away at this thing.
Yep.
So for the people that really want to make a change and want to educate themselves, the word doctor means teacher. And so I'm here to help educate you. Then it's up to you to put it into play. Now, if you need more help with that, we do have opportunities. We have 3 different levels that people can engage with the sugar detox when you come on Thursday night to learn. It'll incorporate just the sugar detox program. There'll be some exercise involved, some nutritional counseling involved. There's just different things that we have available that people say, hey, I need a little more help or I need a little less help. But again, we have good price points on those, and we're going to be able to really help a lot of people this time around because we've kind of refined this whole process a little bit. But more importantly, is just don't stick your head in the sand. Don't just keep doing what you've been doing, because it doesn't change anything.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. People got to wake up. I mean, we are 3 years in a row we've shown that there has been a decrease in life expectancy. That's not a just 2 points make a line, 3 points make a trend.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. That's a real problem across the board, that life expectancy in this country is dropping off. Now, I get that there are certain groups of people that are expected to live longer than they probably have in the past, but that's because they're the front end of the baby boomers, and they haven't been so messed up, for so many generations. I mean, you're talking, my dad's a baby boomer. I'm the second generation. Now my kids are that third generation of eating this way,
Right.
basically. So that's the problem, is that the first generation is going to get away with it. The second generation, we've got some issues, and then my kids are really in it. You know what I'm saying? So it's this downstream effect, and it's starting to turn around, but we've really got to make some big changes here.
Well, let me interject the phone number to Dr. Kyle's office there, Breath of Life Chiropractic Wellness Center in Petoskey, 231-622-8828. If you want to reserve your spot, give their office a call, leave a message. They'll get back to you. You have this event on Thursday at 7 o'clock,
right?
And we're going to really get heavy into promoting it on social media to fill up what remaining slots you have. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that the people attending this seminar, do you think that the information that you're providing I got to tell you, it was eye-opening for me. It was like a smack across the face. Are you going to basically provide not only the information you did previously, but you said you actually refined it, and you brought in a nutritionist as well?
Yeah, so we've actually I've kind of streamline the process because I had a lot of information the first time I'd done it, so I kind of went through and chose a little bit more of the more pertinent things. I've kind of blended a couple different topics together, and we come up with I think a better version of the original presentation. But I've even diving in a second time into this, I've learned more. And just, that was the big thing. I didn't know so much about how the food pyramid was hijacked from the word go by a bunch of lobbyists that none of these people are doctors, and even the people that wanted, the people that actually understood how to eat properly, their opinion didn't even matter. So I don't even have time to go into all this. I guess that's why I'm sharing it today. You're kind of getting an extra behind the scenes look here this morning on your show of things that I would love to go into, but it's really not that important. I find it interesting, but it doesn't give us the information that we need to change. I guess what I'm saying is you can't trust these people.
Right. When you said it, especially about the dairy, because how many people, like you say, vegans and others, drink almond milk or alternative milk, never realized that the farmers in this country, the milk producers, had that much influence, not only with their lobbyist special interest groups, but they could actually change the food pyramid. I mean, that's scary, Kyle.
Yeah. The food pyramid, basically what they were able to do is influence behavior. They are able to influence behavior by spending a lot of money at the government level, at the USDA level, to get enough politicians or whoever the powers may be. They grease some palms, apparently. And it's some pretty shady business. When I got into this, here's the other thing. And then that dairy is another topic, but I'll talk about it for a minute. We actually know that the countries that consume the most cow's milk on the planet have the highest rates of osteoporosis. Now, I'm not saying there's correlation, there's not causation. But that's kind of a big stick it in the eye of the dairy industry from saying, you got to drink your milk to get good calcium. Right. Well, there's reasons why that's actually, green leafy vegetables are actually, for instance, Japan drinks very little milk. They're not known for their dairy. You don't go to a Japanese restaurant and expect a bunch of cheese and milk and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So, but they have very low rates of osteoporosis because they eat a lot of green leafy vegetables. So again, there's other sources that are actually better for us. Because we actually don't need dairy. I tell people all the time that cow's milk is for baby cows. It's not something that we need. I'm not against eating some dairy, but it shouldn't have to have its own segment on the pyramid.
Well, what is the better alternative for folks listening from if they want to have cereal in the morning, for example? What would be the best milk to use with that?
Well, honestly, we use almond milk in my house. Okay. It's lower sugar, and there's actually more calcium in almond milk, about 50% more calcium in almond milk than there is in cow's milk, and less sugar.
Okay.
So people don't realize that milk is sweet. Milk is it's got a lot of lactose, which is milk sugar.
Yep.
That's where they make malted milk balls from. As they just basically boil off some of they extract some of the sugar, and then they just refine it down and turn it into a malted milk ball. That's why it's got that nice kind of creamy texture to it. That's lactose. Okay. It's malted lactose. So
people that are leaning toward lactose intolerance, that would be a much better alternative for them.
Much easier to digest. The only people that really can't have it are people with nut allergies, and then there's other alternatives around there too. There's other stuff out there, but there is even rice milk, which is got a little more sugar in it. Those types of things, but regardless, what I want people to understand is that they need to do some research on their own. But here's the thing. I find that most people, not because they're stupid, but they just don't have the ability or the resources to weed through this. That's why this office is such a great resource for people, is because I do this for a living.
Do it for a living, and you have the knowledge to look at things scientifically. A lot of people don't have that background either.
True.
We're going to take a short news break. I'm Chuck Randy. He is Dr. Kyle Denholm. We'll be right back.
Sugar, oh honey, honey, you are my candy girl, and you got me wanting you. Honey.
welcome back into the show. I'm Chucker Randy. He's Dr. Kyle Denholm from Breath of Life Chiropractic Wellness Center in Petoskey, located at 301 West Mitchell Street, right there in Petoskey, just north of the McLaren Hospital, across from Jet's Pizza. I always got to mention that.
It's a good landmark. People know it.
They know it. And funny, the music comes back, sugar and honey, talking about food. Got a couple of text messages that came in, a Facebook comment as well.
Sure.
This Thursday, the sugar detox seminar will start at 7 o'clock.
Correct.
Wanted to make sure people knew that because he said I work until 6. Would love to go, but I didn't know what time it started. We still have some slots available. You can call the office. Their number again, 231-622-8828. Because he's traveling right now, listening to us on the TuneIn app.
Right.
And you also have an Eventbrite page set up for it. They can search Eventbrite as well.
And I will say that if for whatever reason you're not able to make it physically, you can still register, and we have a private Facebook group that we're going to be doing it live. But we're going to have some really great things for the people that actually are in the building. We're not going to have some of the special offers are not going to, obviously, there's physical things that you can buy and take and stuff like that. So
sure.
But I mean, I'm trying to stay away from that. I want to have the interaction because I like to get to know people face to face. I want to get to know, there's just that's a big part of what's missing in healthcare these days.
And they being in the room there, Kyle, can actually ask questions where you're not going to be able to do that over Facebook.
I'm not going to be able to do that over Facebook. So
now one other message that did come in said, what about proteins? What about meat? Said he hadn't heard you mention meat on the pyramid. How do you, looking at it the way that you prefer to do it, the way you eat yourself, how much meat, how much vegetables, fruits, dairy, grains, and things do you actually consume is basically what the question is he's asking me here on Facebook.
That's a great question that I'll answer on Thursday.
Excellent. That's a good one. All right.
No, I mean, there is a whole section on protein and how to eat vegetables, that type of thing. And I do kind of break it down and that's kind of what I'm telling you is that I'm just explaining how the food period messed up. I'm going to correct all these things when I go through the workshop and explain really why sugar is so bad. But yeah, I do eat protein, and I definitely want to try and eat locally sourced things. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I still eat I eat beef and chicken and pork, but I mean, I know where they're coming from, kind of a thing.
Right. Now, do you consume a lot of fish?
Fish is as long as it's wild caught. And again, I do talk about that, but that's the biggest thing you got to find these days. Anything.
Well, that's a question I have because Vicki and I, we like salmon. We just like the taste of it, and we think it's good for us, but. I'll go into Costco, for example, down in Traverse City, and I see the salmon there, based on pricing. I mean, let's face it, we've got a budget to live within. And it always seems like wild caught or they say ocean. It's out in the ocean. It's not being, quote, farm raised. The farm raised stuff is so much cheaper.
Right.
But I always remember you saying that. Why do you say wild caught versus farm raised?
Well, wild caught, for instance, they're going to be eating what God intended them to eat. If they're in a farm, they're basically eating tons of antibiotics and basically other dead fish. So, for instance, if you have a salmon, you get a nice salmon, like a nice pink salmon fillet. If you get a farm raised salmon, if they add dye to that, Randy, to make it pink. So it looks like it actually comes out. It's white and it's also kind of mealy. The quality of the meat, and there's tons of toxins in there. So they overpack these ponds. They don't drain the pond. They just keep adding fish after fish because it gets the biggest idea is just to get the fish big enough to kill them and move on to the next one. And they basically take a lot of the extra parts and they grind it back up and mix it with some grain and they pump it back into the other fish. So they're just kind of eating the same stuff over and over again.
Right, and that nice pink color that it has to it, that's actually a dye that they add into it?
Yep. It's kind of a again, once you start learning this stuff. So I always say, look, pay a little extra for the wild caught. You're going to get, it's going to taste better. It's going to have a better consistency, and you're actually going to get better nutrition because of it without all the toxins. You get a lot of toxins in a fish that's farm raised. So we really avoid.
You convinced me, man. I'm never going to buy any more of that farm raised stuff. That's done. Toxins and antibiotics and oh man, okay, brother. Well, now see, folks. This is the kind of questions you're going to get to ask on Thursday night because without knowing that kind of stuff, that's so simple to answer the way you just did. But I mean, bam, it's in the brain forever. So now when you're in the grocery store and you're looking at, farm raised versus wild caught, there's not even going to be a question in people's minds.
And I do get it. I mean, this is something my wife and I go back and forth on. I mean, because we've done so much research on this. That's one area that we're not going to skimp on because Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, said let your food be your medicine be your food. So I would rather pay my grocer up front than to have to pay my medical doctor on the back end because what we eat makes a huge difference on how we're coming around. And that's the thing too. So I just wanted to mention this. In 1995, the food pyramid was revised and the USDA was under pressure to put on their eat less salt and sugar. But the sugar barons of the time fought this change. And when they revised the pyramid and it was actually released, it told people to eat less salt, but to moderate their sugar intake. So again, there's even just little changes like that. The lobbyists don't want to see. They want to influence that behavior because if the government says it's true and this is what the government says, we should it's probably in our best interest, right?
Right.
So
exactly.
The greater good mentality doesn't go very far. In my mind, Hitler used that, the final solution was for the greater good, right?
Sure.
And that's an extreme example, obviously, but there's certain things that even in today's day and age, if you look at it like, wow, okay, maybe I should make a change and I can learn a little bit. So I talk about the sugar because, one, I'll talk about how bad sugar is, but eating too many grains, bread, rice, pasta, those types of things, messes with your blood sugar, causes heart disease, causes cancer, causes diabetes, and causes dementia. I mean, Alzheimer's and dementia is hugely on the rise. It's up 4,000% over the last 100 years. Wow. That's a crazy number. 68% increase in death rates from Alzheimer's in the last 10 years alone. So, I mean, you got to understand that, and this is all being related back to how we're eating and how blood sugars, we're understanding blood sugar plays a role in how the brain operates, how it's able to heal and function long term. So this is another thing that's really becoming a problem. I mean, people got to understand that if they don't get their diet under control, especially the sugar problem, they're going to end up with a whole lot more problems than they ever probably imagined. And like I said, because now we're doing a couple generations of this, your grandkids, my kids are sitting in the pressure cooker.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I'm listening to you talk and different thoughts are going through my head, but I got to tell you, just in my own personal life, with that one seminar that you did for us months ago, how it's impacted our lives, but so many different components by eliminating sugar, by staying away from cookies and donuts and ice cream and all that kind of stuff, reducing the amount of bread and pasta, the health ramifications, blood sugar's gone down, blood pressure's gone down, lost 34 pounds now. I mean, this is, I think, this seminar that you're doing on Thursday night, Kyle, I think this is a key to a lot of major health problems here in our society.
Absolutely. I mean, I truly believe that this seminar is going to save some people's lives, and you could be on that list too, because I mean, if you keep plugging away at it, and I know that in the beginning it's a little easier, to lose the weight, but it's like, if you keep plugging away at it, I'm down over 50 pounds and it took me 2 years to do that, but I had keep consistently. I'm back down to the weight I was in high school. So, but again, it didn't happen overnight, and I've worked really hard at it. So I get that too, but this is a good way to start, and you have a great support group. Everybody that joins is going to be in this together. Okay. So you're going to have accountability, you're going to have support, and you're going to be successful because of that. And that's the biggest thing is I know you and Vicky did it on your own, and I appreciate that, but you at least did it together. right?
Right.
You probably couldn't have done this on your own if Vicky
No
was
way.
cookies.
No, had to have
No.
somebody there helping. And the other thing, like you mentioned, there's so many other components talking about the 8 weeks, the wellness program, that would have made it even better, faster for us had we been able to actually come up to your office there. Again, we're talking with Dr. Kyle Denholm, Breath of Life Chiropractic Wellness Center. They're located at 301 West Mitchell Street there in Petoskey. And we're going to give the phone number out again, 231-622-8828, to make sure that you guys give them a call and register for it. I will turn this into a YouTube video, Kyle, and produce it and get it out there later this afternoon, because this seminar has got to fill up. And how many available slots do you have still left there for Thursday night?
We're still sitting about 20. I mean, so it's sold about a dozen. So, I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, and people go to the Eventbrite, get your ticket. And this is what happened last time was like the day before, the day of, was like all of a sudden we filled up. You know, people have a tendency to procrastinate, and I understand that.
Right.
But, yeah, we do have some seats available. But, again, go on Eventbrite, get your ticket, or call the office, and we'll get you registered. And, you know, we'll make sure that you get this information. And the cool thing is we've kind of modeled it this time as it's going to be almost like a mini 8 weeks to wellness during this 3-week plan, so that we can actually help people implement some of these other things if they want it, you know.
Right.
So it's going to be it's going to be a fun workshop. We got some really great information. You get to meet our new nutrition coaches and get to tour the facility and everything. So I'm excited to do it, and I know it's going to change some people's lives for the better as far as their health is concerned.
Absolutely. Well, again, we're going to put it out there in a YouTube video this afternoon, and give them a call. Go to eventbrite.com, sign up for it. And Cal, we greatly appreciate you being a sponsor and being part of the show today.
Thanks, Randy. Have a great day.
You too, sir. I'm Chuck and Randy. We'll be right back.